everyone. A very warm welcome to another exciting episode of Psychology Talks. And I'm your host, Amreen Nadeem. And today we're going to explore a very important topic, and that is related to education. Because lots and lots of people are suffering because nobody talks about it. The education system was built at the time when the systems were designed in a different era, and it was built to meet the needs of industrial economy, emphasizing standardization, memorization, and conformity. But now times have changed. A lot has changed. Technology has come in, and we don't need uh, any memorization of the facts. We Because every information is on our fingertips. We need very different skills to survive in this era. And I'm so honored to be joined by Miss Devi Sani. She is already making change in education system. She has built successful education companies that have supported more than 13,000 students and partnered with over 120 schools. She has dedicated her career to helping young people unlock their potential and preparing them for a rapidly changing world. So let's welcome Devi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Breen, and so nice to be here.
Yeah, likewise. It's really an honor to have you with us because you're doing so much great work, especially in bringing change in the education system, which is much needed. So, just tell us about your journey. That how did you started all these things, and what exactly currently you're doing?
Sure. So, and Breen, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I grew up in a traditional household where I quite literally had no thoughts about my career and what I was going to be and who I was going to become. I in middle school struggled a lot academically, and I found it really hard to do well in school. And I'd always noticed myself looking outside the window and not really paying attention to what teachers were saying. And then in high school, something changed, something shifted in me. And I went from this mindset of I'm not sure I can do it to maybe I can, to I can, to I 100% can, to I'm going to do it. And for me, how that happened was a teacher that believed in me, who shared with me he believed in me, and he mentored me throughout that journey. So I said to myself years later, if I start anything in education, it'll have to be to empower students to believe they can do anything. Because sometimes, as is in the case with what I've done, just saying that and feeling that and really genuinely believing that can change a student's life. And so today I have two businesses. One's called Ascend Now, which started in 2017, that focuses on beyond academic, and college counseling. We start all the way from age 4 all the way to 18. One of our 4-year-olds recently did a public speaking engagement with a school in front of 400 high school students. So we really believe age is just a number. I have another business called The Edge, which focuses on supporting schools with social emotional learning skill modules that can support teachers to teach, in my view, what matters: networking, resilience, grit, in bite-sized pieces that make it accessible for both teachers and students.
Yeah, amazing. Your journey is actually very inspiring because I think it is relatable to what students nowadays are actually experiencing. As you said, that a lot of people, students usually just think in the classroom that how when this period is going to over, and they can have fun instead of focusing on what teacher is saying. So it seems like the current education system more focusing on on imparting information and making them learn in a way that makes them feel bored, right, instead of enjoying the learning part. And that's what actually you just also said, that teachers make the difference in the student's life, because it's not necessarily that a person that who is, or the student who is learning, just will feel that okay, they need to be strong or something. Just one teacher who just believe in you, when just one teacher or someone, it could be a friend, it could be a
Yeah.
parent, or it could be anyone who just believe in you, just make you realize that you have potential. And that's when, like, everything changes. And you are exactly the example of this, because you're doing it, and you are
And
like
I
now
have someone
using this.
like that in my life. Like, I have a life coach who
Mhm.
I work with, who says that to me and who believes in me. And I think age is just a number. We all need that. And I'm humble enough to know
Yes.
that I learn from my 15-year-old students as much as I learn from my 4-year-old students. And I think this
Mhm.
obsession with learning and like opening your mind to anything is so beautiful. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of adults sometimes feel that they can't learn from someone who's half their
Yes.
age. And sometimes a lot of teens feel they can't teach adults. So, I was on a podcast earlier this week, and, the person was asking me, what's one insight you can give a school? And I said, why
Mhm.
don't you have one session per semester where students teach teachers? How cool would that be? Flip the
Wow.
script.
Yes, that's wonderful. That sounds really interesting, because I completely agree that, age is just a number. Even like I learn a lot from my kids, like who are of course very young, and as you know, that my son has written a book, and I learn a lot from him. That when he comes and shared that, this is the problem with the education system, and then actually I start realizing, oh yes, this can get better. It's just a matter that, we need to listen to what students are saying, right? We
Yeah.
need to understand that what they've been going through, instead of we forcing them to learn the way we teach. We just need to listen that how they want to learn. And I think this is the new era, that we need to talk about it, and this is how we can bring about the change in the education system. So just tell us about that. You said that you have two businesses. So what are these businesses about? Like how you help people through these businesses, especially young students?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Ascend now, we have our own pedagogy and method that focuses on mentorship based learning, project based learning. So as opposed to saying, student, this is exactly how you're supposed to learn, we actually create pathways and projects to develop those skills. So let me give you an example. I have a student who's now in university. Her name is Stefania, and she's at Claremont McKenna College. She got a scholarship, and she needed to do some kind of passion project, something she was excited about. And we were trying to brainstorm what that would be. And she said, well, I really want to help the community of menopausal women. And she's 17. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, why don't we think of maybe doing a blog where we interview doctors, neuroscientists, psychologists to
yeah.
talk about hormonal health and how you can
Mhm.
help menopausal women? So she started this community called Meno Unites, where she unites women that are in that age group and supports them through articles, mentorship sessions, community sessions. And so that's kind of a tangible example of how we take that age is just a number and help students execute across. Ascend Now was it started as me being the tutor. So I moved to Singapore. I was 23 years old, and I was the tutor of a lot of these students. And then COVID happened, and then the business grew, and I met so many amazing teachers that have so much more experience than me. Now we have 185 teachers in the team, and they are so inspiring when they connect with students. And so for me, there's always been a gap because students love to learn one-on-one. Their pace of learning is better, their conversation is better, they feel less shy, less intimidated. So that's Ascend Now. The Edge was designed to solve a different problem, which is, how do we help teachers, the heroes of our generation, with curriculum and content and methods to teach what will matter? And I know every school says it, we teach skills and we do that, but do you measure it? Do you compare?
Yeah.
Do you assess? Do you have units that actually go through the data of it? That's what we do. So outside of that, I sit on a few boards. I sit on the board of Duke's Education, which is a group in the UK that has, I think, now 100 plus schools. I sit on the Barada School of Business, the Georgetown University board, and then a couple of other schools as well. So really passionate about how education's being developed, how it's being created, how we're executing it, and yeah, very, very excited to learn as well in the process about, for example, how student brains are changing with technology and how we should start at a younger age to prep different types of skills. So always learning. And I think our method, part of our method has a brain scan. So you study, you're on the platform and you can actually scan the student's brain and see how they think, what interests they
Mm.
have, the way they
Yeah,
communicate, the way they
yeah,
hear, the way they
yes.
process. So a lot of things I wish I had when I was a student, I created.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I love what you're doing, especially with Ascend now. And now, like you said, the build my edge is another business, right? So, the two things that really fascinated me, that you just said that schools are not building the skills that are required in the current, to survive in the current era, especially those skills like financial education, financial learning. You especially creative thinking or something of that sort, right? Which you are actually helping your students through your teachers, I mean, your group and everything. So just tell us that what do you think that what is the problem with the current education system? Like what schools are not teaching students to prepare them to meet or face future?
The big problem in education is that there are too many stakeholders that are not aligned. So,
Yeah.
and no disrespect to any of those stakeholders. So, parents might not be aligned with what their kids want. This is really common. As a parent, I want my kid to be in 7 extracurriculars and da 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 da. But the kid might just be really want to be good in baseball or in writing,
Yes.
right? Teachers are sometimes misaligned with what students want or with what parents want. Policymakers are sometimes misaligned with what all three of those want. So, in my view, Breen, it's that it's hard to find a clear alignment across all of these stakeholders that have different KPIs, different um,
Yes.
outcomes to fulfill. And I think that change takes time in schools because it's such a wide operation with so many things that have been done just because tradition says they have been done. Take a curriculum like SAT, standardized assessment, scholastic assessment test, right? So the SAT is used as a proxy to see whether you get into a US college or not, right? But what the SAT does is it assumes one linear way of thinking. So if you and I take the SAT and we both do really well, that means we think like most other people, right? That's not a good thing. That's a
Yeah.
terrible thing, right?
Absolutely.
That we should be multidimensional. We should be creative. We should, view a problem in 17 different ways. That's the beauty of creativity. So I think a lot of the curriculum is forcing our brain to think a certain way, which is sometimes not natural to us. I had to take the SAT 4 times before I got a good score.
Yeah.
um, and because I didn't think that way. I just
Yeah.
didn't, right?
Yeah.
In a reading test, like, what does this word mean to you? It meant to me something different in a poem than it would to
Absolutely.
you, right? So I think there's a lot of that, which is a problem. I mean, I work with schools, they're my clients, I serve them as a board member, and I think schools are doing a great job with the change. But I think there's also this kind of pressure to move along with times without realizing why they're doing it and how it's going to affect the ultimate user. I'm obsessed with knowing what our kids want. I talk to our students all the time in our tutoring business because I want to know what they like about it, what they hate about it, would they buy it again, why would they buy it again. I want to know everything about the experience, what could be better, because they're our users. I go to so many conferences in education, and the topics are like best curriculum, future of education. The youngest person in the room is 35, but the consumer is between 4 to 18. What
Yeah.
about their perspective? What about their opinion? And that's why I really connected with you and what you're doing with your son, because your son is thinks differently and he thinks in a unique way, and he's spearheading his own journey and his own path beyond school. So I think that's really important. And I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, firstly, I would congratulate all the parents because it seems like a lot of work. But
Yeah.
if I was a parent, I would slow down and think about what really matters.
Yes, yeah. You are such an amazing person. Like the way you're doing it and the way you're explaining it is much important, and it makes it more relatable. Because the problem is, as you first said, like there's so many like important like nuggets of wisdom which I want to reiterate. That you said that like there's so many stakeholders linked to it, and each stakeholder is disconnected to the real consumer, like, to the real user, or the students, right? The
Yeah.
teachers teach in the way because they've been told by the management to do that. Their management are told because the higher education system wanted to be in that system, and again the system wants it because they want to have this some kind of I would just say again it's kind of a monetary benefit, some of the benefit that comes with the maybe ranks and titles, because they want to be among the best of the best schools or best of the best university or education or the college system, right? And that chase of like chasing the KPIs, making the system really bad, because
Yeah.
who suffer is like the students and the
The
parents. And
students.
yeah, they suffer the most. But then again, each stakeholder also suffer in their own way, because teachers are
Yes.
also burdened by this, what has been expected from them. At the same time, school management is also suffering because the students are unable to actually cope up with that kind of thing. And a lot of good students are just missed out because of the system. So I love the way that you actually put it in a way, and the way you are actually doing it, like making it more practical, like reaching out to the students who are unable to do that, because that's again my mission too, to make students realize, to talk about it more, create more awareness about it, that can be done. One thing that you said mentioned here, that that you want parents to do it, to slow down, to understand more about it. Just tell us about it, that how they can slow down, how they can understand their kids better. Because again, I know that when lots of parents really get anxious and they put more pressure on their students or their child to perform better, and then it really creates things worse. So just tell us about it, that what role parents can play to help their child.
It's really interesting because I was actually speaking to a parent yesterday who's a stepdad of one of our students, and he was almost crying on the phone, and he said, my stepson doesn't want to connect with me. He doesn't want to go out with me. He doesn't want to hang out with me and do things with me. How can I, make sure he does that? I'm trying to talk to him about all the things I'm interested in as a dad. And it's really tricky because I think, when we ask ourselves, when we were students, when we were kids, did we have the perfect relationship with our parents? I didn't. I definitely didn't. I was, always doing what I wanted, and I was a great student, but I was also going out and doing whatever I wanted without asking for permission. So I think it's a huge expectation to think that your kid's going to have the best relationship with you from ages 4 to 18. I think that's too high of an expectation. That's one. The second thing is, I think it's really important to give your child space and give your child time to get exposure to the world. And what I mean by that is, a student doesn't really know like what exists, what are the new career paths, what are the new majors, what are the different university experiences, what are the different things I can do. The world is changing at a pace that is unprecedented, that it's so difficult for us to know what genuinely exists. And so if I was when I talk to parents, I say, like, firstly, don't expect to be the mentor of your kid, because it's not going to work. It's not sustainable. It's just going to create disharmony in your relationship. One of our parents called me the other day and she said, Davy, I'm so happy with you. I said, why? She said, I'm finally a friend with my kid, because Ascend now has taken everything else, all the academics, all the headache, all the
Yeah.
reminders, and now I can be a friend with my kid. And I think that's the best advice, is being true friends with your kids and giving them space, giving them time. Don't enforce upon them your mistakes, what you would have done. It's a different world.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I love that advice because a lot and lots and parents usually come to me and they say that their child, especially teenagers, are so depressed because they can't
Yeah.
cope up with the grades and something like this. Or even those who are actually performing very well, they say they are extremely depressed. The reason why, because we have created as parents, like, people, they have created the distance between them because the only thing they talk about their grades, they want to do this. For the time being, they need to actually put everything aside and actually have the communication or the conversation to understand what they like. Even if they want to talk about the games or you want to talk about anything, they need to have the heart to heart conversation, not something, just to, I would just say command and like, command and order, like, you need to do this, you need to follow this. So no reminders, no commands, just a conversation that helps build a really better connection with this. So I love that advice. Now, just I want to understand that you said that the education system is again so many things that we're lacking, but one of the most important thing that you also point out that it's like it doesn't flourish or doesn't help students build creative thinking, right, which is the most important skill. So what do you think that, first of all, what is missing, that why it's like education system is not focusing on building creative thinking or problem solving, and how we can bring about the change in the system, so to inculcate this to help students to build creative thinking.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's much harder done in practice than it is done in theory. But I
Mm,
think the main thing is to create new opportunities and new experiences for students for them to build these skills like critical thinking, um, other than conventional
mm,
opportunities in class. So other than, your school, your academics, where can you build creative thinking? Can you build it in your entrepreneurship club? Can you build it in your podcast club? Can you build it, I was just talking to a school today, and I'm going to host a podcast in their school, and I'm going to invite the students to interview the guest. I'm not going to do it. That's like building critical thinking skills because
mm,
you flip the script a little bit. So I think I'm all about different opportunities of them building it. I'll give you another example. I have a student, Jacob, who is extremely shy. He's very introverted, and his mom's like, I'm worried he doesn't even speak. He's just super super shy. So now every session I have with him, every 3 sessions, I actually bring a guest to our class. So I brought a zoo
mm,
life specialist. I brought a professor of economics from Princeton, and I just asked the student to ask him questions. A couple weeks
mm,
ago, he was in Boston, so I organized a tour for Harvard with him and an alumni of Harvard who's a teacher of mine, and just
mm,
him. And apparently, he
mm,
didn't stop talking. So you have to be put in situations that you wouldn't be comfortable in to achieve uncomfortable results. It's like this
mm,
quote, no changes means no changes, right?
mm,
You're an entrepreneur, you've started, a lot of different things. And had you not tried in the first place, had you not started in the first place, you wouldn't have developed that, right? I can safely say, had I not. And I continue to practice that, to be honest, in my personal life. Like, I just started theater lessons to learn how to act, not because I want to be an actress. I don't want to be an actress, and I don't think I will be ever that talent to do that, but because I want to learn the skills of acting. I think it's really important when you speak in public, and I'm often invited to different countries to speak in public, and I've never trained that skill. I just
mm,
speak from the heart, and now I want to train that skill. So, whatever I share, I confidently try to practice as well, because I think we're all in the same boat and level playing field with AI, because knowledge is cheap, fast answers is
yes.
cheap.
Yes, yes, I love that. Absolutely love that, and I love what you said that you constantly building different skills, and that's exactly my motto as well. And like especially when I study more neuroscience, it's all about rewiring your brain. The more you rewire it, the more you practice different skills, your
Totally.
brain remains young. And that's it. Like even lots and lots of studies show that people who develop like dementia, people who all develop all these diseases, disorders linked to the brain, like these dementia and other things, it's all because they have stopped using their brain. It doesn't mean that they don't think every day. They think only the same way. If you just keep thinking the same way, your brain would not grow. Your
Yeah.
brain will grow when you start thinking differently. You
Differently.
start practicing different skills, start learning different things. That is the only way that your brain keeps growing, and it can happen anytime, at any age, from the youngest to
Yeah.
the oldest. Anyone can do this. We got really good comments. Like a lot of people are joining in and sharing, and especially Fatma is
Hi,
really, really feeling.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So she's saying that when parents talk about consequences, they might see their care and love, but they might not realize most kids won't see that until they are adults. Exploring what the child needs, curiosity helps cultivate their talent. And love it. Thank you so much for joining and sharing this wonderful comment, Fatma. That's very true. Yeah. What do you think, Devi?
I totally agree with you, Fatima. I think it's providing those little moments and those little environments that are going to foster that curiosity. Um, I've led my life largely as a result of following my curiosities. And I think that's largely led to my success because I never chased revenue or profit. I chased, what am I curious about? I'm curious about how to make any student tick, whether they're getting F's in school, A's in school, C's in school. I want to have a solution for all types of students. That's what I was curious about. Similarly, with my second business, I'm curious about how I can help schools with a tool that can make teachers' lives easier so that teachers can get 10 minutes extra with their partner or with their kids.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I've lived my life.
Absolutely. There's another very nice comment. Emphasis on skill development is such a need of an hour in the today's conventional style of education. So thanks, Devi, for this insight. Definitely, I love that. I love what Devi
Thank
say.
you, Robin.
Sharing. Yeah, thank you. So I just want to ask that if you have to redesign education system, what would you do? How different would you make the education system?
So, what I would do is I would firstly do something extremely bold and throw a conference with 700 students of different ages and have them talk to each other about what they want to learn. What are their curiosities? Where do they lean towards? Okay, they're interested in gaming. What does gaming mean? Do they want to start a gaming company? Do they want to learn how to be the best gamer? What are the things they're interested in? And then from there, what are the skills they want to learn? And from that knowledge, I will have kind of an idea of what they care about. And then what I would do is I would build programs that would encourage them to understand who they are, how they can learn these skills, and who they want to become, and how we connect all three. We have something at Ascend now, which is quite cool, which is like a learner journey of our student. And we just started doing an intake assessment, which can really look into what the students' ways of thinking are today and then what they are next month or in a year or in 3 years. And it's amazing. I'm constantly amazed by how much transformation and malleable moments exist in a child's journey. Children are
Mm,
not born away and they're never going to make it. If you're a parent watching this, I have seen so many students who are born super smart and then they don't end up where they want to end up. And I've
mm,
also seen many students who are not good at school. I'm one of them. And do okay in life, right?
yeah.
So I would start with the student. I'm very learner focused. I think I'm part of a lot of communities with a lot of schools and they all think they know everything. And I think that's the biggest mistake. we should all start with a fresh blank piece of paper and remember that we don't know anything and we want to learn what they want to learn. Then add the knowledge of what research says about learning, acquiring knowledge, how your brain develops, how your brain thinks, put that all together, and then come up with a school. I think entrepreneurship is a must for school, not because I think everyone should start a business, not at all, but an entrepreneurial mindset teaches you how to take a no and make it into a yes, how
Yes.
to market, how to sell, how to look at a problem as a gem of an opportunity, how to fail positively and be like, I'm ready for my next failure. It's so
Yeah.
important that entrepreneurship is used as a vehicle in schools rather than an ending point of here's your winner of the Shark Tank competition and they get
Yeah.
$10,000. That's not it. We do that, and we've been doing entrepreneurship since 2017, since I started the company, because I realized when I started my company, I was like, why didn't I learn this in school? Why didn't I get exposed to entrepreneurship? So for me, entrepreneurship is a must, skills is a must, and some sort of students being co-authors, students being partners with teachers in their learning journey. Super important.
Yes, I absolutely, agree with you. And this is really fascinating that, we are, if we build the system like that, just imagine what all a student could do. I mean, with their lives, with their grades, and it will be a win-win
Absolutely.
situation for everyone. And even those stakeholders which they think that, they want to enforce only their system, which is more maybe more like beneficial in terms of in monetary terms or any other terms, they will see that the system you're saying or you're recommending has much power to create a better life for everyone. So I think we must actually do create more awareness about it, talk more about it, so people eventually decide that yes, this is something that they want, not the one which has been outdated. Because the current education system, if I look at it, is almost 400-year old, right? It's
Yeah.
almost the same way the teachers are teaching. Of course they have been they've been using like the gadgets and everything, but the main system is like, it's the basic system remains the same, which needs to be updated. Now, like, since, as you know, the the technology has become so advanced, and especially with the AI, everything has changed. I want to ask again with the same like AI related question that there are like lots of studies also showing that students who are using AI are their brains have been,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not like it's not developing, it's not helping them develop intelligence. So a lot of people are saying, a lot of schools are saying this is not good, that they should not use artificial intelligence. Some people are saying that no, it's very important that people should be, students should be using it in the school. What is
Yeah.
your opinion on that?
So the AI question is tricky because I think on the one hand, students are being told, don't use AI for homework, you
Yeah.
can't do it. And then when they look at the college majors or job applications, they all require some kind of knowledge or competency of AI. So there's your
Yeah.
first contradiction. The
Yeah.
second thing is, I think overuse on AI can sometimes force you to outsource your thinking and your cognitive capability. And I think it can be really dangerous. I use AI a lot. And I'm also mindful because these days I'm trying to use less AI because I don't want to be so reliant on it. And I don't want my brain to be obsessed with, okay, but what does AI say? Right. And I learn to stop thinking. Right. So I think
Yeah.
there's a balance. Like, there are two groups of people. One that uses AI to say, hey, boss, I've done what you asked for. Boom, I'm done. Laziness. I think another group of AI says, how can I use all the resources that exist today, put them all together, learn faster, and use that to develop an even better solution for my boss? I think you're looking for the second group of people.
Absolutely. I like that approach. And you're right. It's that AI is not something that we need to outsource our thinking. It's something that we need to use as an assistant and as a way, as a source to enhance our intelligence instead of like, it's just like if I just look back, and people used to think that, oh, when they have the calculators, when they have the Excel
Yeah,
and everything, it was the same way. It was like
totally.
helping them to use the calculations better. So if we apply the same formula here, instead of like outsourcing what they think, it will not help, because AI is has a limited capability to think or perform cognitive functions, and as humans we are far superior to that. So if we just
Yeah.
outsource that, we will actually lose on that. So the creative thinking, the imagination, all these things which are unique to us will suffer. So I think the main thing is that we need to use AI to enhance those skills. So that's something really good. There's another very good comment here by Mr. Shea. So the future demands critical thinkers, ethical leaders, and lifelong learner. Reinventing education is no longer an option; it's a necessity. Completely agree. Yes. What do you think?
Absolutely. 100% agree with that statement.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also want to know that, especially that now the educators want to innovate, but the face of curriculum requirement, testing pressure, and the limited source. What do you think that, like, now we are in kind of a situation stuck, as you said, that okay, we know that we talked about the ideal situation, that how the education can be redesigned. We know that, we talk about that how students are suffering, what the education system is not providing. Now living in the current scenario, right, what can be done, like especially how students can cope up with that and how teachers can cope up with that. We already talked about that, how parents can help a student. So I just want you to talk more about that, how students and how teacher can cope up with this flawed system.
I think students need to start thinking learning in their own hands. Teachers are facilitators, supporters, cheerleaders, but sometimes students convince or tell themselves that teachers are going to do it all. That's not the case. You have to have accountability, you have to have onus, you have to have your own view on things, your own perspective. Your teacher is guiding you, but you're the one who's driving. So why do you expect the teacher to do everything for you? I think there's an entitlement issue as well with some students, which is, I go to school, so I have to get into a good college. I have to
Mm,
get a good job. I have to get a good life. That's not true. I have a lot of classmates of mine that are unemployed and looking for jobs. Similarly, I have a lot of employees and partners that, went to community college. So I personally don't think it means anything. I think your whole life should be based on what you want and what you create. And I never use excuses, at least in my journey. And I don't want our students to think of that as well. I think students have to largely know themselves, learn about themselves, figure out who they are and what they want to do and what they want to achieve, and figure out a path to that. I think there's sometimes a grit issue, a consistency issue. I don't know where to start, but then you start and then you stop and then you restart. And we're all human, but I think if you want results, you want to be consistent. And I think for teachers, it's also hard because there's kind of an identity crisis where teachers are scared they're going to be replaced because of AI. And I totally don't think that they should be, because they provide a lot of different skills. But teachers, instead of learning about AI and how to make your life easier, also I would suggest, how do you become a better teacher when students are so distracted, so hard to speak to, so hard to give an answer beyond yes or no, you know? So instead of thinking about that, think about how can I be a better teacher for my students.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely love that. I know that we this topic is so vast and we can talk about it for hours, but unfortunately the time is short, and we need to finish this episode. I love this conversation because it's much needed for everyone, like for all the stakeholders that you mentioned: parents, students, teachers, management of the schools and institutions. So this is very important that we must talk about it. We must, which I am very passionate about it, that we must bring about some change. At least what we can do is bring awareness, tell
Correct.
students that they are not, there is nothing wrong with them. We need to tell parents that there's nothing wrong with them. It's just a matter that the system is not helping us to bring out the best in the in their students and the children. And even this, some teachers are falling or are having so much pressure. It's just because that this the system is not allowing. So before I actually close this show, I would just ask that if every parent and teacher or educator and student is listening, and today, if they want to remember just one message from this conversation, what do you think? What would be the one message for them?
Learning starts with you. Don't rely on someone else to learn, to be better, to reach your goals. And AI has made knowledge cheap. It hasn't made skills cheap. The art
Yeah.
of building trust, the art of having a good conversation, the art of building a good connection. AI is actually worsening our ability to do that. So you can use AI all you want, but don't disregard your skills.
Mm, amazing. I just love that advice because AI or anything else cannot replace human being unless we
Yes.
think that we are replaceable. It's just that we just need to believe in us and we know that we have so much power than these artificial intelligence or anything because every human being is unique. So yes, I completely love that. Um, Before I actually end the show, just tell our audience that what is the best way to reach out to you.
So thank you for listening. If you're still on, love to connect with anyone here. The best way to reach me is my LinkedIn DMs. I actually go through each one, and I post quite a lot on learning, entrepreneurship, job entrepreneurship, all of that stuff. So please reach out if you found it helpful. And I wish everyone a good afternoon or morning or evening wherever you are.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I've shared all those um, links in the comments. So those who are listening or watching us live or watching us in a replay, first of all, thanks for joining us. And those who want to connect, please feel free to connect with all those links that I have provided in the comments. And thank you so much, Devi, for sharing such important insights on this such critical topic in this critical subject. So thank you so much for your time today. I think you're free. So, anyways, thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.